Croissants are a classic French pastry that have the reputation for being notoriously difficult to master at home. But is this actually the case? Fortunately, it's not. With a bit of patience and some time on your hands, you can create bakery-quality croissants in your own kitchen. Here's how. To get started, gather up and measure out your ingredients. First, heat the milk until it's warm to the touch, but not too hot. Pour it into a large bowl, mix in the yeast and the brown sugar, and let it sit until the yeast starts to foam. Then add in the salt and the flour and start mixing until everything starts to come together into a rough, sticky dough. Turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface and knead it until it feels soft, silky, and elastic. This should take about 3 minutes. While the dough is chilling, it's time to prepare the butter block. While a lot of recipes tell you to pound the cold butter into a rectangle, I've found that this keeps the butter much too stiff to work with. Instead, cut the butter into cubes, then use a pastry blender to mash it up. Spread it into a square on a piece of plastic wrap, then place it in the fridge to make sure the butter is nice and firm for the next step. Take the chilled dough out of the fridge, sprinkle it lightly with flour, and roll it out into a rectangle. At this stage, don't worry too much about keeping the shape of the dough perfect. Then take the butter block and arrange it in the center of the dough. Grab a corner of the dough, fold it down over the butter, and press it into place. Repeat this until the dough is completely enclosing the butter. You want to make sure it's totally sealed or the next step is going to get pretty messy. Flip the dough over so that the seams are facing up. You're now going to roll the dough, with the butter inside it, into another rectangle. The secret to success here is to be gentle with the dough. With all that butter inside it, it'll feel a little more stiff and lumpy than you're used to. Make sure that you end up with a relatively straight-edged rectangle. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it'll help make sure the layers of butter are even throughout your dough. Take the left side and fold it into the center. Then take the right side and fold it over the top. Wrap the dough up in plastic wrap and pop it into the fridge for about an hour. It's important to make sure the butter doesn't start to melt while you're working with it. Once the dough has chilled, it's time to roll it out again. When you've got it into a rectangle, repeat the same folds that you did before. Left side to the center, right side folding over the top, then wrap it back up and pop the dough back in the fridge. You want to repeat this exact same process 2 more times, remembering to chill it for about an hour each time. Now it's time for the final shaping. Roll the dough out again, this time paying more attention to shape and thickness. Ultimately, you want it to be about 1/4 of an inch thick. Use a pastry wheel or a knife to divide the dough into equal-sized triangular sections. Here's how you form your croissant. Give the dough a stretch to make sure the triangle shape is even. Pull the 2 sides apart slightly. Then roll the dough into a croissant shape, stretching the point out slightly as you go. You want to make sure you end up with the point on the bottom, otherwise it could unravel while baking. And try to work fairly quickly. Remember, you want to make sure the butter doesn't start to melt. Now put the croissants into the fridge to rise overnight. Just before baking, mix up an egg and brush it over the croissants. Bake them at 400 degrees for about 12 minutes, or until they're golden brown and puffy. And the next step? Pour yourself a cup of coffee and enjoy this classic French pastry.